Students are required to take a statistics class for their graduate program. Dr. Brown uses a traditional lecture method of instruction, whereas Dr. Green uses self-directed online instruction. Students in both classes take a standardized final exam. The results are listed in Table 6. Does one method of instruction produce better results than the other? What conclusion would you reach? If we go to Table 6 and look at the results there, the first thing we notice is that there are more students in Dr. Brown's class than there are in Dr. Green's class. That will automatically give you a clue that you cannot use the paired samples because these are two different size groups. So to solve this, we'll go up to Data, then to Data Analysis, and this time whenever we start looking for our t-test that we want to use to compare two samples, we're actually going to look for the t-test two samples, and we're going to assume equal variances. So click on two sample assuming equal variances, and quite honestly it really won't make a whole lot of difference, but we're going to assume equal variances. Then it asks for our input range, so we're going to use Mr. Brown first, and I want to do something here that I haven't done in some of the previous videos. I am going to include the label here of Brown. So if I click on Brown and come down to highlight all the material, all the items in this data set, and release, and then when it asks me for the second variable, I then will go over to Dr. Green's class, and again I'm going to use the label green. Click and hold, drag down over the students and their scores in Dr. Green's class. Release. It'll ask me for the hypothesized mean difference. I'm going to assume there is no difference between Brown and Green's classes. So I'm going to put a 0 in there for hypothesized means. Now this time I'm going to put a check mark here by labels. Since I used Brown and Green in my variable ranges up here, and those were the labels, I'm going to put a check mark there by labels. My alpha level, or level of significance, is going to be 0.05, and I'm going to put my output range in cell Q32. So I type in Q32 and click on OK. And then I go down to Q32 to see my results. And the first thing that I'll notice is the means are fairly close together for Brown and Green. I see my calculated t-statistic is negative 0.024 and my critical value is 2.02. Now quite honestly, it doesn't matter here that we have a negative sign because we'll just use the absolute values, because since this is a negative 0.24, that means my critical value is actually negative 2.02. So if we just use the absolute values to compare the calculated t-statistic with the critical value, we see that the t-statistic is not greater than the critical value. Therefore, we fail to reject the null hypothesis that there is no difference between Brown and Green. So that means there is no significant difference between online instruction versus traditional instruction.